I got a couple of topics that I wanted to talk to you guys about. And I'm going to be honest with you. There have been a lot of people that have warned me to not speak about these particular topics. Well, actually, just one of them. Obviously, two of them are safe. One of them is not. And I think you know which one it is. It's the Lefty Gunplay scandal that is going on right now. So, obviously, this is a mixed martial arts channel. And as a result of that, I have to try and explain to people that don't know who Lefty Gunplay is, as if you may not know who Lefty Gunplay is, because 9 times out of 10, you're not going to know who he is if you just watch MMA and you're not tapped into the Los Angeles hip-hop culture. So that's just the reality of it. However, a very interesting story that I think I would love to share with you guys, because obviously it's not just a mixed martial arts channel, it's a channel that encompasses life lessons through the lives and the situations and the results and the events that we covered in mixed martial arts. So first and foremost, let me explain who Lefty Gunplay is. Lefty Gunplay is a Los Angeles rapper, Mexican-American descent, comes from a Sureño gang. One of the sets that he comes from, Baldwin Park, is known to have had a lot of racial crimes against innocent black folks done by Mexican gangs. Now, obviously, just because Lefty Gunplay is a Mexican rapper or a Mexican affiliated a Mexican affiliated gang member who's also a rapper that comes from that part of Baldwin Park in West Covina, Los Angeles, that is known for committing hate crimes against black folks, it doesn't mean that he is part of that in any way, shape, or form. So let's try to understand that first and foremost. However, it is important that when you grow up in a gang culture, or just any type of tribal matter, that there are going to be situations where you're going to be perceived as somewhat biased, somewhat racist, or somewhat against a certain group of people just based on the predisposition that you are locked in at war with them. So let me give you an example of this particular story and what this reminds me of with the Lefty Gunplay situation. So first, let me give you context. Now that I've given you who Lefty Gunplay is in terms of his biography and who he is, right? He served prison time while shooting someone when he was a kid and had been locked up since he was probably 16 to 18 and then all the way up till he was 26. And by the time that he was 26, he had already gotten out of prison and became a rap star just based on doing mixtapes and having a homeboy and a manager of his who was already a rapper by the name of King Cash. So this is the controversy that is surrounding him right now. He goes into an all-black podcast, and by the way, to be a rapper, whether you're a white rapper, a Latino rapper, or an overseas rapper, there is no way of getting around that you have to do African-American podcasts, because let's just be honest about it. They are the gatekeepers of the art of hip-hop, whether you like it or not. That's just the reality of it. So as a result of that, what do we got going on with Lefty Gunplay, right? He goes into all these media tours, starts going into these different podcasts, and by the way, this guy is known for speaking whatever it is in his mind with no reservations to anybody's feelings. And because of that, sometimes it gets him in trouble, but at the same time, it also makes him very entertaining, sort of like a Stone Cold Steve Austin effect. Now, why did Stone Cold Steve Austin become one of the most popular pro wrestlers in the late 1990s? It's because he likes to talk trash. He likes to smack talk, and he likes to get into people's faces for the same reason why Conor McGregor is a big-time star and a reason why a lot of people were attracted to his persona. It's the same thing. And even more so if you're a rapper, it really is a very important aspect of your entire promo, to being a badass and saying whatever it is that you want, especially if you got a gangster persona behind it. So here's something that you don't understand about LA gang culture. to give a perspective into this Lefty Gunplay situation, there's been a lot of Mexicans and black gangs that have been fighting for almost 100 years in this part of the world. It's a reality that is ongoing, and it's passed down from generation to generation. And it just so happens that a rapper who comes from a Mexican barrio that is heavily, I mean, let's be honest, not all Mexican gangs are funking or having beef with black gangs all the time. It all varies. There are some neighborhoods in California where you have both essays and black gangs sharing a hood together, but operating as a separate gang. That's a reality. But then there's a lot of black gangs and a lot of Mexican gangs that are completely against each other. And as a result, well, you have this racial tension that is going on. But you can also date back, going all the way to the conquistadors of Spain and how they conquered Mexico and the underlying racism that they may have learned through these different cultural practices and a combination of gang affiliations on top of it. So this is what you got with Lefty Gunplay as a result of this situation. So fast forward to 2024, he becomes one of the biggest rap stars in the LA scene and now breaking out into the mainstream. Now, something is holding him back right now, which is these comments that he made in a black podcast in which he went on and said, hey, you know what? I will never let my daughter date a black man. And by the way, a lot of the people who are in the gangbang politics of LA, they understand what he is saying. Even the black guys that are on the other side, or even the black guys that are allies with essays, they understand exactly what he's saying. However, there are people that are going to play both sides of the social justice cape and then the cape of being a gangster at the same time. And to be quite honest with you, the backlash that Lefty Gunplay is experiencing, to be quite honest with you, is unfair based on two reasons. Number one, if you're not a gang member and you're a social activist and you are against what he's saying, I don't hold any grudges towards you. This is your ethos and how you're going to operate, so you are going to judge him accordingly in this particular matter. However, if you are a full-fledged gang member and your whole entire idea is, well, you know what, I'm going to ride for my gang and it's going to be all about my neighborhood and this and that, to be quite honest with you, none of that has anything to do with race. So you got to understand that as well, because there are people out there who ride with different gangs that are, let's say, predominantly an African-American gang. You're going to have Mexican guys, token Mexican guys, that join that particular Crip or blood set that is normally, traditionally an African-American gang. And it goes backwards as well, or in the reverse, where you have black members, part of the Sureños or Mexican gangs, or black members who are part of the Norteño gang. This is very common. Rico Too Smooth, by the way, I'm out in West Sacramento right now, the hometown that I live at, and right across the other town, because I live in the suburbs, the good part of West Sacramento, if what you have you. The other side is the hood, and guess what? That side is a Norteño stronghold. And one of the most famous rappers that come out of that particular region, or this part of the world, is Rico Too Smooth, who, by the way, is a Norteño, a half black, half Mexican guy, which, by the way, quite frankly, sort of gives the image of what most Norteños look like. Very diverse. There's a lot of Norteños that are Pakistanis. There's a lot of Norteños that are Indians. Same thing on the other side. One famous example, Capone E. He is known to be an essay rapper, yet he holds a Pakistani descent. So quite an interesting story on that guy. And then he is the guy that is famous for, by the way, signing Mr. Criminal, who is a famous essay rapper himself. But I think recent times there have been paperwork that came out that he snitched. So as a result, guess what? Lefty Gunplay went after him too. But that's another story for another time. What we are talking about right now is Lefty Gunplay and this racial politics that he was spewing. So let me tell you exactly, by the way, who is this? 2K God says preach. All right, awesome. Thank you for the comment. Don't forget to like and subscribe, guys, as I continue to drop some hot comments for you. So, okay, moving on with Lefty Gunplay. What his comments said reminded me a lot about The Sopranos. Do you guys remember the episode of The Sopranos where Tony Soprano's daughter was dating a light-skinned black brother who looked like Lenny Kravitz? You guys remember, if you guys know The Sopranos and all the OGs and legends out there who have watched this old-school gangster show, you know what I'm talking about. So you know what Tony Soprano, the mob boss, says to his daughter's boyfriend, supposed boyfriend at the time, right? Who was a black guy. He said to him, hey, listen, I got black business partners, but I would never, and they would never, let our kids mix up together. And I'm paraphrasing what he's saying, but what Lefty Gunplay said really reminds me of that. Now, is there a certain anti-black sentiment that comes from the Italian-American community? And I'm going to be honest with you and tell you 100%, yes, there is a great level of anti-black sentiment that comes from Italian-Americans. And you can look back in different reasons as to why that is. I can tell you one of the main reasons why that is going on, in my humble opinion, is because whoever you are in conflict with, within your close proximity, you're going to have a certain level of hate against them. Not in a racist kind of way, not in a way that is against anybody in any particular instance, but just in a way for you to feel like you can dehumanize the other person because you know they are the opposition, and when you have to meet them one day, it will be a lot easier for you to raise up against them, to raise up arms against them, to hurt them in any kind of way possible. Because that is what you are asked to do if you are fighting somebody within the opposition. Now, does it mean that you're racist? Well, to be quite honest with you, right now we live in an era where that word gets thrown around a lot. And because that word gets thrown around a lot, you got to ask yourself, what does this word even mean anymore? Now, I'm not here to diminish that in any kind of way. You got to understand there is real racism out there. For example, you try and apply for a job. You have the same qualifications as the next guy, but maybe you're not the right skin color, maybe you're not the right religion, and you're going to get overlooked by the guy who has, let's say, the right race, right color, and right religion or right tribal affiliation, and he's going to get the job over you. That is bias racism to the max, and those things absolutely exist. But this whole Lefty Gunplay situation, I don't know if you can call it that. However, I gotta be honest with you. Let me tell you exactly what I compare the Lefty Gunplay situation towards. I compare that situation very much similar to Vietnam War soldiers that have said derogatory things about the Vietnamese, and let's say modern combat vets that have been to the Middle East that say very disparaging things about the Middle East or Arabs. And obviously these are very disgusting things to say. This is a very disgusting thing to harbor in your heart. But if you are at war with other people, or if they have a certain particular group set that obviously we know that not all jihadists are Arabs and not all Muslims are Arabs. So guess what? If you're a U.S. soldier and you're fighting people overseas, you're not just fighting Arabs, are you? You're fighting Muslims. So yes, you are going to have anti-Arab sentiment, but at the same time, you're also, as a U.S. soldier, going to have anti-Muslim sentiments. That is until you come home. And like many other U.S. soldiers that I've met before that have said, yeah, you know what? Before the war or during the war, I hated Muslims. I didn't like them. But then when I came home or I finally met some, then you know what? I just decided that they were people just like me. And so therefore, I don't really hate them. And I think Lefty Gunplay is sort of in this same situation. Let me tell you about the California prison politics if you don't know. Obviously, this isn't something that I know anything about. I've never been locked up for a long time, nor have I really been locked up at all. But what I can tell you is that California politics in prison are all about race. So in other words, if you're a Mexican gang member and you ride with the Mexicans, not about sets, not about different gangs, but just one particular race in prison, you can't function with the other races without being called out or possibly being disciplined as a result of your transgressions or even any type of transactions with anyone that is not of your race. That's just how racial politics go. So what Lefty Gunplay is doing is mixing the reality of prison politics, but also adding into some sentiments that is either cultural and not only that, historical practices from people that are within his tribe, set, crew, section, or whatever type of group you want to classify it as. So, is he racist? Well, the answer to, in all true to God honesty is no. Is he going to be looked at as a racist for this? Quite possibly, that is a great possibility. However, here's something you got to understand. I think that it's going to blow right over, and I'm going to explain to you why that is. And this is part of the field that I sort of understand why Lefty Gunplay is not going to get blown out of the water for these comments. You see, there is a thing in entertainment, in sports, and in combat sports, in rap music, in Hollywood, and in films called a public relations management team. And by the way, this is something that I'm very familiar with. This is something that I went to school for, that I got a college degree for, places that I've gotten careers and have gotten opportunities in. So I have a place to speak about this, and I'm going to tell you right now. Lefty Gunplay is signed with OTR, right? That is the label that he is with, owned by what I believe to be either a Cambodian or an Asian gentleman that is part of the TRG gang. By the way, a completely different gang that has nothing to do with the gang of Lefty Gunplay, which is interesting enough in and of itself. But they are affiliated with Interscope Records. And that is the important part to understand about PR campaigns in this matter. So what exactly does that mean? It means that when you have a company like Interscope, who has been with Death Row Records, who has been with Dr. Dre, who has been with Eminem, they know how to blow these things right over. And by the way, speaking of Eminem, this guy, Lefty Gunplay, has the same lawyer as Eminem. And I urge you to look it up. I don't know the guy's name, but look it up. He has the same lawyer as Eminem, and he's mentioned this in the Cap Capone news interview that he did on a podcast. So put that in perspective. This is a guy who has that kind of PR campaign behind him. Which means, how is this going to blow over? They're going to work night and day to make it look like this was nothing more than just the reality of the streets that he lived in. And quite frankly, if that's the angle that the PR teams are going to take, I agree with him. Because the man's not a racist. He's not out there burning white crosses or putting people in lynch positions or effigies or anything like that. He's not doing any of that. So you can't classify him as a racist. So that's first and foremost. The second thing I want to talk about is Jake Paul and Mike Perry. But I'm actually going to talk about that last because I believe the important subject to talk about right now is Conor McGregor and Micheal Chandler. But in particular, let's talk about Micheal Chandler and the naive nature that he operates in. Now, why do I say that? Why do I say that Micheal Chandler is operating under a naive set of circumstances in the way that he is going about this? I'll give you an example. Micheal Chandler wrote on his social media something about how, oh, you people are out there being negative. And by the way, I'm paraphrasing. I'm not giving you word for word what Micheal Chandler said, but he's basically calling you guys idiots for trying to chase this whole Conor McGregor fight. And quite frankly, you guys are not wrong. And I gotta be honest with you, I never take the side of the fans that scream and holler at the fighters, especially from people who don't go out and train themselves and have the audacity to try and guide these people's careers like you know what you're talking about. This time, I am actually siding with the fans rather than a fighter. Because if you don't know, this channel is more of a pro fighter than it is a pro fan page. But at the same time, I try to be very objective. So, why am I taking the side of the fans and not Micheal Chandler? Because let's be honest, Micheal Chandler is talking about all this positive thinking stuff with no substance. And this is the one thing that really irks me about this whole situation, which sort of relates to some of the people in your daily lives. You ever met people that have this naive positivity about literally everything? Oh, you know what? I'm going to make it through the next month paying my rent. But yet, you're on the verge of getting an eviction. Why? Because you didn't move and didn't make the right proper planning and the right moves to try and prevent these things from happening. So as a result, guess what? You're now in debt, you're now behind the bills, and you're now in a very horrible situation that you don't want to be. A very difficult situation that you don't want to be because you didn't plan ahead. All because you had this positive thinking in your mind saying that, hey, you know what? If I risk for this particular month and let's say, I don't know, go and do a commission job rather than doing a salary job or an hourly job, and you thought that you could make more money doing this commission job. And sometimes there are people that make it and do wondrous things with a commission-based job rather than a salary job. But then there are times where you got to be realistic and say to yourself, man, you know what? That commission money, that freelance commission money is great, but maybe driving a forklift or working at McDonald's or In-N-Out, that little steady income would have been better for me in the long run, right? And this is sort of the life choices that Micheal Chandler is facing right now. He has to think about whether he wants to live in a world where he can potentially make that Conor McGregor money or miss out on two particular paychecks with two different fighters that he could have had great results in. And he could have had great results with Conor McGregor anyway, because let's be honest, he's the favorite to win that. But how can you go to a fight like that, get a fight like that you know you can win against Conor McGregor, but yet you can't get the fight because of these circumstances that Conor McGregor is going through right now? Why? Because Micheal Chandler is one of those happy-go-lucky dudes that thinks self-belief and positive thinking is going to get him through whatever adversity he has going on. And quite frankly, a lot of these people that I've come across all throughout my life, and your life, by the way, are some of the biggest fools that you probably ever met, just based on the decisions that they've made. This aspect of self-belief. And by the way, there's nothing wrong with this. There is absolutely nothing wrong with this, but there is nothing wrong with a little dose of reality as well. And I'll give you a reverse end example of that, in which I'm talking about Micheal Chandler having this false, naive, positive thinking that bears no results versus the opposite of, let's say, what I'm going through right now. Let me give you an example right now. So, many people try out this YouTube stuff, and many people are successful at it, but then there are people that are not. There are people that are going to try to downplay you, which, by the way, is what Micheal Chandler is complaining about. Oh, everybody's downplaying the whole situation. Everybody's just being negative about this situation. But guess what? You try and start a YouTube channel, everybody's going to be negative about you starting it out. You'll never make it. Why? Because they don't see the results right away. They don't see the 1,000 views right away. They don't see the millions of views right away. They don't see the million subscribers right away. Oh, you only have 300 subscribers right now. You don't have 1,000. And by the time you get 1,000, oh, you only make this much in your YouTube monetary right now, or this and that. Something always negative that they're going to talk about. Now, have I experienced the same thing? Yes. Is there a point where I thought, man, you know what? Maybe I should just quit YouTube because I'm not really getting any viewers. I'm not really getting anybody to pay attention. Next thing you know, lo and behold, I get a few people that start following me from the UAE. Next thing you know, I got people like City Projects watching my channel. Next thing you know, I got people like Dubs, who has a lot of followers on his social media platforms following me. All these different people from different communities, whether it's MMA or the rap world, following me. So I said, you know what? Maybe I do have a chance. So if I keep going and stay in the course of making videos, making live streams, isn't it a possibility that, hey, you know what? Maybe, just maybe, I could make it in this YouTube game? Is it a possibility? Of course. That is a reality for me, because guess what? My goal that I want out of YouTube, maybe it's not the MMA guru route, maybe it's not the Mr. Beast route, but it is a route that allows me to make enough money, and not only that, really voice my opinion, my expertise, my understanding of mixed martial arts to the world. And by the way, having a place where I could have it recorded as some sort of sports almanac that I can look back on. So that is my realistic future goal for that matter. And is it realistic? Yes. So I go on and I continue with it, regardless of what the naysayers say. However, what you have with Micheal Chandler is an unfortunate incident where he truly believes that this Conor McGregor fight is happening. So you're probably wondering, why am I not so confident in this Conor McGregor fight happening? What is it about my skepticism that is leaning towards that direction more than anything when it comes to the Conor McGregor fight? I'll tell you what it is. I don't think Conor McGregor is ever going to fight again. And you know what? I think it led up to the beginning of the end when we saw the press conference fall apart. Now, why did it fall apart? In my skepticism and in my humble opinion, because by the way, I don't state this as a fact. I'm stating this as a possible speculation. So here it goes. Conor McGregor, unfortunately, was getting drunk during his training camp, and I could be wrong. But I'm only giving you speculation, and I need you to understand that first and foremost. Because we're trying to look at different reasons why this fight is not happening. And one of the reasons could be that they are sending Conor McGregor to rehab. Perhaps maybe that he can't get through a fight camp without drinking. And that could be the problematic result of what you are seeing right now. Conor McGregor can't make it to training camp, can't have a decent training camp, and can't make it to press conferences, let alone weigh-ins, fights, and fight week preparations on top of fight week media, because he's too busy getting drunk, and it's going to be a problem for the UFC, and they don't want Conor McGregor to give a bad account of himself to the point where it ruins their brand. So they have to act in this particular matter. Now, is it the right answer that all of this is going on? No. Because Ariel Helwani even said that, hey, you know what? I'm obligated not to say what had happened. I know, but I'm going to hold my journalist integrity in terms of what had happened with Conor McGregor, and I'm not going to say anything. So there is something there. But my speculation, and it doesn't have to be the right one, I think it just falls into the aspect of the fact that Conor McGregor is an alcoholic and can't get through a training camp without drinking, And there have been several examples that you've seen on TV that sort of indicates that. So I need you to understand that that could be the reason why this fight is not happening. Because Conor McGregor does not have the mental fortitude that he once had to stop drinking in the middle of a training camp. It's easier said than done for him, unfortunately. But that's what we got going on with Conor McGregor. So that is all that I really have for the Conor McGregor situation. That is all that I have for the Lefty Gunplay situation. I have one more topic before I sign off, which is Mike Perry and Jake Paul signed to replace Mike Tyson. Now, they're doing it at a different venue. It's going to be at Tampa, Florida, and the Mike Tyson fight is still ongoing, but still at risk if, let's say, Mike Perry was to win over Jake Paul. Now, is it a possibility that Jake Paul can win over Mike Perry? Yes. I'm going to say that it's a decision. Let's just be honest. I think that he's very tough, Mike Perry. He's shown that in BKFC. He's shown what he can do in that part of that sport. But this is a different sport, and this is a sport that, quite frankly, Jake Paul is used to, and Mike Perry is 0-1. So we'll see. We'll see how this fight goes, but I can tell you that I think there's going to be some dangers of potentially the Mike Tyson fight being put away if, let's say, for whatever reason, Mike Perry ends up winning. And by the way, shout outs to Mike Perry. He really made a good career out of himself by fighting in BKFC, where not only his toughness can shine, but also his boxing skills that, quite frankly, is way more superior than his wrestling, kickboxing, or any type of martial arts that he's ever done, right? And then on top of that, it's a sport where if you get hit hard enough, you got to be able to know to bounce back and get back in a fight. But we don't know if he's going to be able to be successful in the boxing realm when it comes to dealing with something like this. So either way, we will see how this fight is going to unfold. But for now, I think I'm going to end this right on the 33-minute mark of this particular live stream. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Watch from the beginning to end. And I will see you guys in the next future content to come. Watch from beginning to end. I dropped some of the most hottest content. Not only that, some of the best explanation in the top news that is going on right now. In the beginning of this stream, I talked about Lefty Gunplay and the racial implications of some of the comments that he said. I talked about the racial gang politics that goes on in Los Angeles. And as a result of that, I also talk about Conor McGregor, his injuries, and the realities of that, or at least my own speculation of what had happened, but also talking about Micheal Chandler and his naive aspect of constantly chasing Conor McGregor for 2 years, sacrificing his whole entire life just to get this fight. R.I.P. Willie Mays. Fam first. I don't know exactly what that means, Willie Mays, if you can elaborate what that means. Angel says, Jake Paul, man, it's a joke, Paul. That's what Angel said. All right. Well, thank you for the comments, guys. So, once again, don't forget to like and subscribe. I will see you guys in the next topic. And once again, rewind this from beginning to end because I've got some interesting topics in this particular video that I just laid out for you. So I will see you guys in the next time to come, inshallah. We'll just leave it out in the 35-minute mark then. Just write it out for 30 seconds or so, and then we'll cut it out from here. All right. Signing off, guys. And don't forget to watch all my videos, by the way. Inshallah. Okay? Please. Watch all of them, beginning to end. And watch from the very start to the very beginning. Oh, what is this? You must have lived under a rock if you don't know who Willie Mays is. Okay, well, I will look it up, and inshallah, maybe I can make a video about it. All right, guys, I'll see ya.